I'm looking at you, Principal Berger, so I'm going to start with you. When we're just talking about reflecting on, for you, it's been 20 years as principal here, which is amazing. I mean, what are some highlights that come to mind from your tenure?
Kids, and what they text you after they graduate. I actually had a girl to text me and apologize. I said, so what? She said, you gave me a hard time, but now I understand. So those are the reasons why, when I think about the 20 years and get those kind of texts and messaging and thank yous, and you don't see it immediately. It's not immediate, gratification. You see it later. Like the 7 who are teaching here right now. A couple of them were in my advisory as a teacher when I was teaching here. So, yeah. Yeah, so it's a good payback. It's really rewarding. So, yeah.
Yeah, because something I got to imagine keeps you going. I mean, you all have had roles before you become principal as well. So, what really kind of fuels you and keeps you going in that role? What would you say?
Well, there've been a lot. I would say the students definitely, and also I think different obstacles that we've overcome are always a highlight. So we built a new building 20 years ago, and it's not really new anymore, but at the time it was a huge effort that combined the advocacy of parents, students, and the community, and that was a real highlight when we moved into that building.
It's amazing. Yeah, to get everyone together around that cause, I'm sure it was really cool to see.
Yes.
Yeah. What about you when you're reflecting?
I am always proud of all the leaders that I've launched. So I think building capacity in our new teachers coming in and then launching them to lead. So it's really exciting to me to see that someone who started her teaching career at Ross is now a principal in our cluster.
Wow.
Another person who started her coaching career at Ross is now an instructional superintendent. So I love looking for that potential in people, and that really keeps me going.
That's so special.
At heart, I'm a teacher.
Right.
Teacher.
Right, yeah, and you, I'm sure, want to support each other. I know you all know each other well. Didn't forget about you to my right here. Yeah, as you're reflecting, because I know you talked about you have many years before your 15 years at Barnard as well. I won't disclose since you didn't want to, but what do you think about looking back?
Wow, it has been a beautiful journey. Just looking at the impact that you've made on lives, to see how kids have achieved. And I think of one specific example where one of my kids left Barnard in 2005 and came back with his PhD in pharmacology and came back as our graduation speaker. And this is a kid who some people may have given up on because of behavioral challenges. But just when you look at the impact across the board with kids who are now sending their children to us there at the school and coming back as employees, it's amazing, and it motivates you to keep on going.
I'm sure. I mean, what is that like when the first student you've had where they've graduated, now they are sending kids to your school? What is that moment like?
It tells a lot. Let me just say this. I'm like, how long have I been doing this? But it also speaks to what they got out of the program and the trust and the what they've built and what they're doing and how they feel confident in being that part of that legacy. And so it's really rewarding. Sometimes when I look at the alumnus and children here, we probably have about 10, 15 of them here right now, and so many have graduated, and they were like, yes, my mother said you were her teacher. And I was like, yeah, that was like 5 minutes ago, But it's so good to see the trust that we built in the community.
Yes.
That they want to bring multiple generations back and, connection to not just siblings, but sisters and, other relatives that repeat, are able to trust you. And that's not easy, especially today in education.
Yeah, I'm sure. And to piggyback on that, does anyone have thoughts on what you think the most challenging part is about being a principal? I see a smile over here.
All answer that at one time?
Yeah, if you think you have the same
I think there just are not enough hours in the day, right, to do everything we want to
Exactly.
do, because we want to do everything for our kids, right? We want to offer them rigorous academic challenges. We want to offer them a wide range of enrichment, so that they have the arts and the athletics and developing hobbies. I mean, I think when we really are trying to develop the whole child, we we're always up against time, right? And making sure we're maximizing it and just making sure that kids, no matter where they are in their phase of development, that they feel that sense of belonging in our school and feel like they're being developed in some important way.
Yeah, I know we were talking earlier too about activities and trying to get to all the sports and trying to support every different facet, I'm sure is a huge challenge too. Yeah, and when you're looking too, because you talked about, mentoring the next generation, and you're looking at the women seated around this table who you all know, and you know how many years you've all been doing this. What does that feel like to all be seated next to each other and really think about the service that you've all given?
We really, I think, as a school system, we have a wonderful camaraderie and teamship among principals. And that's a lot due to the leadership of DCPS that encourages that. So I know that I can always reach out to any colleague with any obstacle that I have or challenge, or even if I just need to talk. And so it's really, really rewarding to have that.
Love that. Love that sense of empowerment over competition, per se.
Yes, absolutely. We have our cluster meetings. You're always able to network and always able to find a colleague who can, help to walk you through, as well as central services who provide us with all kinds of professional development and guidance when the challenges come. It's just great to work with a system that pre-plans these things so that you can work with someone and feel confident that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know you had given an example too of a moment that sticks out to you as being special. Does anyone else have a moment that they really think about that was really kind of pinnacle of being rewarding in your career so far? I'm sure there are too many to even think.
Well, I'll never forget when I was thought of enough to be principal of the year. I mean, it brought tears to my eyes because I never thought, I'm just doing what I love, not doing it for recognition. And it meant so much because it made me think, people are really seeing the value in what we do in schools. And that was probably one of the most proud moments because I was totally blindsided. It wasn't that I'm trying to do this, I promoted myself, or, I felt, that should, I didn't even feel I deserved it because I said, I'm just doing what I think is right by children, providing them in a safe, clean, healthy environment, preparing them for life. And it just meant so much. And, every time I think about it, I kind of get, a little choked up about it because it was something that I would have never imagined would have happened to me. That was never my end goal or goal, period. It was just to do the work that I love doing.
Absolutely. And did you have something to add there? I thought you were about to hop in.
Well, I would say the 1920 school year was really an interesting school year. We were awarded the National Blue Ribbon for high exemplary performance, so that was really important. That was a commitment I'd made to Michelle Reed when she hired me. I said, I will make sure Ross becomes a Blue Ribbon school. And then, of course, we know what happened in 2020, but as I was reflecting and getting ready for this meeting, I realized that another really important part of that for me was being one of the first schools to reopen for in-person learning. Getting those kids back in the building was so critical for our community and for me as an educator, right? I mean, that's what we live for, greeting our kids in the morning and doing our work. And so, those were like two, different sides of a coin that year that were really important for our community.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that was only 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That you all had to do a massive pivot. I mean, I can't even imagine leading a school through that. Must have been wild. Is there, we talked about, I'm sure that was a challenge. We talked about just some of the biggest challenges of being a principal too. But your favorite part? Any other quick favorite part you want to say?
A favorite part is when a student gets a full ride to a college. And this time of year is when that happens, when we hear about that. And that really brings tears to my eyes to just see the joy of the families and the student when they realize their entire college education is going to be paid for.
It's huge. And I'm sure they're excited then, but they don't even realize what that means. I think until you're this age and you're paying them off, right? Yeah. That's amazing. It's amazing. And it's not lost to me that we're in this legacy room too. So I want to make sure I ask each of you, I know you said you all, I'm sure, agree, you're not doing this for recognition, you love your job, you love working with the students, but when you're kind of thinking back on the legacy that you're trying to leave and you hope you leave with families, what would each of you say that would be? I'm looking at you, I'll start with you, Principal Berger.
You know, I'm used to my last name where it's either Banneker.
I know, Sam Arnold.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I just want people who are thinking about education, who in education, to lead and be in it for the love of it. You know, not for the financial gain, not for the prestige, but to love what you do and do what you love. That's only fair to children. And hopefully I'll leave that legacy, not just to kids, but the adults who are, you know, coming after me. You know, I was laughing about the picture on the wall, and I'm one of the principals that have been here the longest at Banneker, and I said, you know, what's wrong with me? I asked myself that question. I said, well, I love what I do. You can't get up every day and do this. And I work 2 shifts, total transparency, because I work with kids during the day, and from 4 to whenever, then I work with what I have to do. But I hope I leave that legacy of making the decisions, and they're sometimes the hard decisions, but they're the right ones, because every decision that we make should be with the thought of children in mind. And just leave that lasting love of, you know, education and seeing those scholarships and seeing the kids come back and seeing them grow and just being a part of the give back community and what they do. So that's my hope. Maybe I'll leave them $1 million. I don't know.
That would be nice. I wish I went to this school then. And what about you? We can just go around the table here.
So, thinking of that, I'm really big on inclusion in my school community. It doesn't matter to me where a child is from, what he presents with, but just making sure that that child gets what he or she needs when they come to school. I'm really big on meeting the needs of every single child. And our special needs kids, to make sure we have our programs there that are meeting their needs in whatever their diagnosis may be. Also to have a community where everyone feels like they're part of this, whether you're a teacher or the kids. I just enjoy seeing my kids running into the school in the mornings and feeling like they're loved. I keep an open door policy, which I'm probably thinking about right now, both for teachers as well as the kids. And the kids will come in and talk to me about anything. And, you know, I just want them to know they're loved and to make sure that they're achieving and looking out there at our school motto, for example, only the best is good enough. You should hear them in the mornings. To keep that in the forefront of their minds at all times, that whatever they're doing it well.
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think just to build on that, I think every school has a unique mission and personality, and I always try to build on that by having the mission centered in everything we do. We really focus on multiculturalism, and we focus on the idea of student voice and really listening to students. And I guess the best way to leave a legacy is to leave people that believe in that. So I've tried over the years to hire alumni, and we have hired over 25 of our alumni in different positions in our school, from teacher to counselor to administrator to culture staff. And I believe that if the people that believe stay there, then that will carry the legacy of the school.
I love that. Round us out here.
Sure. Well, I, never take for granted that parents in our community are really trusting DCPS and Ross and the work we do when they are having their children embark on the start of their formal educational journey with us. And so that legacy of knowing that we're establishing the foundation for how kids view themselves and create their identity as learners or doers or leaders is really important to me. I'm a parent, and so part of my boundary is always, if it wouldn't be good enough for my own children, it's not good enough for any child in this building. And so that is really such a great lens, when we have to make those decisions that sometimes, people are not going to be happy with us all the time for everything, but if I always remember to look through that to the children we're serving, then it makes it really easy to make the right decision for kids.
Yeah, and speaking of tough calls, while I have you all, I have to talk about just the climate with education right now, with obviously, Department of Education, where there were potential cuts. I mean, how are you feeling with just all of this attention on education and potentials of things being stripped away?
I'm really nervous. When I see what the Department of Ed, they do for special students with special needs and, students that are, often forgotten, it's, how are we gonna, what is that gonna look like next year at this time? And, we're gonna need them. They're gonna be the ones to get us maybe to the end of our lives, but I'm just nervous about how it's going to impact. I'm not interested in another blue ribbon. That's fine, but I am interested in whether or not my kids eat free, whether or not my kids have the services, whether we have the financial stability to make the best decisions. So I'm really nervous. I really am.
Yeah, feels tenuous, huh?
Very much.
Yeah, I get that.
My school is a Title I school,
Mm-hmm.
and I know what that means for our parents as well as our kids. So I'm experiencing a lot of anxiety as well, especially for our multilingual learners. The needs are great, and it's very concerning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine a child going home and not being able to eat. I've seen kids come in and wrap some of their lunch to take home for a sibling. I cannot imagine taking that away from the kids.
That's a lot. That's heavy to have that on your mind as well as all of your other things that you have to do. Oh, you're so sweet though. Clearly you care so much. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very anxiety provoking. The majority of students at my school are immigrants, recent immigrants, and in fact, we were founded because immigrants at that time were not being served well. And ironically, 40 years ago, one of the first years of our school, we were investigated by the FBI for having illegal students in the school. And now, 40 years later, we're going back to the same thing. And that I find really, really devastating. And it's devastating to our community as well.
Whew. It's a lot to think about. It's a lot beyond just having your 2 shifts, as you were saying, to begin with, add another layer. But I want to bring it back, add some levity back to this. When we're trying to think back on, fun moments, some of your highlights during your period, teaching, being principals, are there any kind of some wild moments that stick out to you, or any moments you're like, that,
Every day.
I can't believe that happened? Anything that is popping to mind right now?
One year there was a pep rally, and we always do a pep rally to try and motivate students to do well on standardized tests. So I decided with a group of the administrators to do an imitation of Tina Turner doing Cranberry. And the students really went wild. So they thought I was crazy.
Great song. Did they know the song?
Tina. I'm going to call you Tina.
Yeah. New nickname established.
Yeah.
I love it. That's amazing.
We have a fun Halloween event every year sponsored by our PTA called Spooktacular, and I love to dress up, and so I like to dress up every year, and I don't tell the kids in advance what I'm going to be, and so it's really fun for them to try to figure out, who I am, where I am. Sometimes the next day people will come and say, oh, we missed you last night, and I'm like, oh no, I was there. I saw you. So that's always fun.
So you go all out. What has been one of your, I guess, most intense costumes that you've done?
Oh gosh, I've been the Wicked Witch, that one. Although there's always, different.
Always that.
right?
Yeah.
Let's
Always that.
see, I was, Rhinestone Cowgirl.
Oh, fun.
I've been one of those, I can't remember the name now, the British, soldiers with the very tall
Yes,
hat. Yes.
Bobbies, or is that the
No,
taxi
that's a
driver?
police officer.
Police officers.
Now the vocabulary's not coming
Yeah.
to me. So I've, had a lot of fun different
Yeah.
costumes.
Oh, I
So
love
that's,
that.
I enjoy that. The kids love to
Yes.
dress up, so it's fun.
Perfect. Oh, yeah, that's always good. Something come into either of your minds that you wanted to share?
Well, every year we had this formal affair called the Winter Ball. And what we had in mind, and it's been just part of what we do here, is we wanted students to have the opportunity to dress in their finest prior to going to the prom, right? That's a 4-year, the prom is a senior thing. So we had this beautiful winter ball every year, and, we have a winter theme, like Winter in Wonderland. The kids come up in their gowns, their tuxedos, some of them in their top hats, and being able to have gowns to give the kids, and when you see them in what, may have been a donation of a gown, because we all have those in our closet, and just see them in their finest. And, what we do is we teach them how to do ballroom dancing. So they kind of start out like that, but by the end of the winter ball, all the shoes are off, and they're no more, the ballroom dancing is gone. But it does give them the opportunity to be in a very formal affair event, and they have on their finest. And, we have the winter ball king and queen, and so it's just a beautiful affair, and just to see the kids, dress up prior to prom.
Yeah.
We don't have a winter ball send-off, I don't think, like some of the other proms.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful affair, and we really promote it. And we try to make sure every kid who wants to come comes, and we make sure they're dressed in their finest. And so it's a beautiful affair. So that's really a highlight every year of what we do. Yeah.
That's so fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have so much fun with my early childhood
Aw.
kids, 3 and 4-year-olds. And you get some of the most crazy stories from them. So I remember one year we had a social worker who was advanced pregnant, and she walked into the classroom, and the kids looked at her like, "What's wrong?"
Oh.
And so she said, I have a baby in my tummy. And a little girl at the back of the class jumped up. She said, "Why did you eat the baby?" But whenever I feel overwhelmed, I go to my early childhood classroom and I sit there and they restore me. Just yesterday I celebrated a birthday. They all ran out in the hallway to dance and to just hug. And I don't have a child of my own, but I have 590 kids that belong to me.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful community that we have there.
I love that. Well, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
That's amazing. What a great way to celebrate it. I love that.
Thank you.
I'm gonna do one quick time check so I keep this on time here. All right, doing all right. It's like I was trying to look at the clock out of the side peripheral vision, but no, we've kind of covered a lot here. I just want to, because we're bringing it back to, this is Women's History Month, right? We have one more week trying to honor, women who are doing incredible things in our community. And so, when you think of taking a moment to empower each other and celebrate each other, is there anything that comes to mind that you might want to say about a colleague here, or just about taking a moment to celebrate women?
I'm always first.
I know.
Right?
My head naturally turns this way.
So when I think about a colleague, and Maria's been my go-to person. We have, been through a lot, even during the pandemic. I was like, Maria, guess what? Our certification, we got to get this done. I mean, we went through a lot, and I pick up the phone now, almost on the daily, and say, Maria, can you talk? Just to talk through things. And her experience and her support has been relentless. And what she's done with her community. I mean, it's just, I keep saying I want to be just like her when I grow up. And so we talk a lot, and we have this thing that we will survive. And so when we're feeling kind of down, she'll call me or I'll call her and say, we got this. And so she just motivates me. And she's done it not just like recently, but she's been there for years for me. So thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Anita. We are really kind of like twins.
Yeah. Matter of fact, they call me Maria sometimes. Yeah.
I walk into a building, they'll say, "Hi, Principal Berger." I'm like, "No, wrong one."
That's so funny.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Anita's example at Banneker inspires me because she has that excellence, that, demand for excellence. And you need somebody like that, because when you are having a demand for excellence, you get a lot of pushback. And so I really depend on her for that. And that's why our theme song is We Will Survive.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We do sing "We Will Survive" as well.
Yes.
Oh.
I think, right? Encouraging
Principal
one
mantra.
another,
Yeah, absolutely.
Keeping a sense of humor, right?
Absolutely.
Sharing our gardening tips.
Yes.
And our healthy, eating and nutrition tips. Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
That's so important.
Right.
And I don't know actually if you remember this, Maria, years ago, because we always, just need someone to shore us up. I remember coming to you years ago and saying, like, how do you do this? Like, how have you done this for so long, right? Like, what is your secret? Because it does really take a lot of, of perseverance and tenacity. And I remember you said to me, you just have to remember to really, like, stay zen, like, stay centered and stay zen. And I channel that a lot. So I want to shout you out for that, because that was many years ago.
Yeah.
When I was a newer principal, and I really was just so in awe, and still am, but of all of your years of service. So
Amazing. It's nice to have those examples, even seated at the same table to look up to. I know I do that with my friends too. Channel her in this moment.
yes.
You have to get through it if she
Stay
can.
zen.
Yeah. If she can do this, then you can. Wonderful. Well, as we're kind of wrapping up here, I just want to open it up if there's just any final thoughts that has kind of come to mind throughout our conversation that you wanted to share. No pressure if not, but I like to
She's
open
looking my way.
I'm turning this way. Any final thoughts? If not, that's all
I'm
right.
grateful for the opportunity to have this discussion,
Yeah.
and grateful to all my colleagues and to DCPS for bringing light to this. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you from the community for all of your years of service, and clearly you all care so much about what you do, which is really encouraging to see. So thank you. Appreciate it.